You know, there are some quotes that are just everywhere. They feel like they've been around forever. We're going to take one of those today, a real classic, and completely deconstruct it. Because it turns out the version we all think we know, yeah, that's not the real story.
Here it is. Know yourself, know your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. You've heard it, right? It's straight out of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. You hear it in business meetings, sports pep talks, you name it. It just sounds so right, so powerful. But what if I told you that the version we all know and love is wrong? And not just a little wrong. We're talking about count them, three, major misreadings of what Sun Tzu actually wrote. That's right. One of the most famous strategic insights in history is almost always quoted incorrectly. So let's dive in and fix that.
Okay, first up, the order of operations. This first mistake seems tiny, but believe me, in terms of strategy, it is absolutely massive. We always say, know yourself first, but is that what Sun Tzu intended?
Well, take a look. The popular version is no self, no other. But Sun Tzu's original text, which he wrote down twice for emphasis, actually says no other, no self. He completely flips the order. And he did it on purpose. So the big question is, why?
Well, here's why it matters so much. Sun Tzu figured, look, knowing yourself is one thing, but the real heavyweight challenge, that's seeing through the fog of war. Your opponent is actively trying to trick you, to throw up smoke screens. So understanding their reality has to be the first priority. It's the harder job, and it's the one you have to tackle first.
All right, so we've got the order right. Know the other, then know yourself. But the second mistake is a little sneakier. It all comes down to a single word choice that completely changes the scope of your thinking. Are you facing an enemy or the other?
Now, most translations go with know the enemy. And yet, the word for enemy definitely existed back then. Sun Tzu uses it elsewhere in the book. But right here, for this specific crucial piece of advice, he chose a different word, kai, which means the other. It's a much, much broader term, and that was no accident.
So why the switch? Well, think about it. The word enemy puts blinders on you. You're just focused on that one opponent right in front of you. But the other, that forces you to see the whole chessboard. It's your main opponent, sure, but it's also the rivals on your flank, the neutral parties, the whole environment. Sun Tzu knew that focusing only on the enemy is how you get blindsided.
Okay, we've corrected the order and we've corrected the subject, but now we get to the biggest misreading of them all, the payoff. I mean, who doesn't love the sound of 100 victories in 100 battles? It's epic, it's inspiring, it's also not what Sun Tzu promised.
The popular phrase promises 100 victories, total domination. But what Sun Tzu actually wrote was by John Butai. Now, Butai doesn't mean victory. It means not in peril, without danger. Essentially, it means you will be undefeated, and that's a world of difference.
See, Sun Tzu was a hardcore realist. He knew that winning a war depends on tons of things you can't always control: politics, the economy, weather, just sheer luck. So he would never make an empty promise like you'll always win. Instead, he gave a solid guarantee. If you truly know the other and know yourself, you will never be put in a position where you can be destroyed. It's not a strategy for winning. It's a strategy for not losing.
So, let's recap. The real quote is something like, know the other, know yourself, and in 100 battles, you will never be in peril. Which makes this next part a huge puzzle. Because here's an inscription from 1950 by Mao Zedong, one of history's greatest strategists, and he uses the popular, totally incorrect version. This just begs the question, right? Did Mao, a guy who literally built a country through military campaigns, just get it wrong? Did he forget one of the most basic lines from a text he studied his whole life? Or was something else going on here? And this is where the story gets really good. If we look at the historical record, in 1936, Mao used a version that was close, but still had the order wrong. But then in 1938, he quoted it perfectly. The exact original, no other, no self, never in peril. So he absolutely knew the correct phrase, which means his 1950 version, the one with all three mistakes, had to be deliberate. The question is, why on earth would he do that? To crack this mystery, we have to understand the specific moment in time. The year is 1950. The People's Republic of China is brand new. And, as always, context is everything. Okay, picture this. In 1950, after decades of brutal war, victory was finally theirs. And with that victory came a huge wave of arrogance and overconfidence in the leadership.
Mao saw this as incredibly dangerous, so he launched a campaign demanding self-criticism. Now here's the crucial clue. His audience for this quote? A national conference of military intelligence officers. He was delivering a very specific message to a very specific crowd.
So here's his genius move. First, he puts know yourself at the beginning. That was a direct shot at the arrogance in the room. He was saying, hey, look in the mirror first, deal with your own flaws. Then, he changed never in peril to 100 victories. Why? He was talking to his intelligence experts. It was a way of praising them, saying their work, knowing the other, is the special ingredient that turns merely avoiding defeat into achieving total victory.
And for Mao, this wasn't just some abstract idea. This was personal. He famously said that during the harrowing Long March, his intelligence unit was like a lantern in the dark. He believed the whole thing would have been impossible without them. So you see, his adaptation of Sun Tzu didn't come from ignorance. It came from a deep, hard-won respect for the principle.
And that's really the big takeaway here. Mao's mistake wasn't a mistake at all. It was a masterclass. He showed that true wisdom isn't about just repeating ancient quotes word for word. It's about understanding the core principles so deeply that you can adapt it and apply it with surgical precision to solve a problem right here, right now.
So, it all leaves you with one last question to chew on. This story shows how even our most solid pieces of wisdom can have these hidden layers and different interpretations. It kind of makes you wonder, what other timeless advice are we all hearing, repeating, and maybe getting completely wrong?